application of clustering algorithm. Now, what is the difference between classification and clustering in machine learning? So classification is supervised learning while clustering is unsupervised. Finite set of classes and here finite set of clusters are present. Then goal of assigning new input to a class, that is classification. The goal in clustering is to find similarities within the given data set. Then in classification, infinite set of input data, while in clustering, finite set of data. Then there are some of the other examples from taken from the book. So what I have done here in clustering or in most of the lectures, in the books there are less introduction, details, and application descriptions. So I have merged different sources from different internet sources, lectures, and books. So in order to clarify the realistic view of all the topics and subtopics. So these are some of the why you are going to choose the k-means clustering or hierarchical clustering or some other types of clusterings. These things you need to understand. The coding is quite simple. There are lots of packages available for most of the algorithm, clustering algorithms also. So here, these are some of the examples. For example, if you want to implement the clustering approach for image classification or processing. So here, original picture and its 5 means declaring. So you need to identify the different colors, different features. Then you go for hierarchical clustering. But these things I have discussed in quite detailed. Now, if you want to listen the any tutorials on cluster analysis, you could learn the most common thing, that is what is cluster analysis, types of data used in cluster analysis, categorization of major clustering methods, partitioning methods, hierarchical density based methods, grid based method, model based clustering methods, outlier analysis, and some summary. So cluster is a collection of data objects similar to one another within the same cluster, dissimilar to the objects in other clusters. Cluster analysis is meant for grouping a set of data objects into different clusters based on some features. Clustering is unsupervised classification and no predefined classes are present. Typical applications are as a standalone tool to get the insight into data distribution as a pre-processing step for other algorithms. Now, some of the pictorial view of clustering applications. For example, this is the view for some fields with in terms of images. So it looks like water area, then green area, then pedestrian area, or some areas where you can walk freely as a pedestrian road. Then clustering example in gene expression data analysis. Then clustering examples for some complex data classification. And these are, for example, how you initiate the k-means clustering. You need to initialize, go for alternate, go for a stop when no points assignments change. Then k-means clustering example are used in different ways. How you can draw the pictures after clustering algorithm application or k-means clustering applications. Then what are the properties of k-means clustering algorithm? Then here you need to understand the real properties. It guarantees to converge in a finite number of iterations, running time per iteration. Then s- the realistic properties, symmetry, positivity, and self-similarity. Then triangle inequality. What are the objectives? How you are going to achieve? For k-means clustering, the equations are quite simple. Something like variable a minus b or variable a plus b, something like this. So it is quite simple. So k-means clustering takes an alternative optimization approach. Each step is guaranteed to decrease the object objective, thus guaranteed to converge. So these are some of the examples. So the goal here, these in this image, K-means clustering application. The goal of segmentation is to partition an image into regions, for example, mouth, hand, nose, tongue, legs. So each of which has reasonably homogeneous visual appearance. Now, these are some of the pictorial examples of K-means clustering, and you can clearly understand. So, for example, this is before clustering, and these are some of the like what is should be the K value when you are applying. When you are applying K equal to 2, that means you want to group them into two classes. Then here 3, then or 3 clusters, then 10. Then original is here, something what you can see and how it could look like. Now, what are the steps? What you need to do before you go for clustering? So you need to initialize, you need to evaluate what went wrong, then what are the schemes for preventing something when it goes wrong. So these are some ways to go for clustering application. Then what is agglomerative clustering? So here I have introduced it in clear way, but agglomerative clustering first merge very similar instances. It incrementally build larger clusters out of smaller clusters. Then algorithms maintain a set of clusters, initially each instance in its own cluster. It repetition, pick the two closest cluster, merge them into new cluster and stop when there is only one cluster left. Then, how should we define the closest for the clusters with multiple elements? Then here, you need to look for closest pair, farthest pair, and average of all the pairs. Different choices create different clustering behaviors. Agglomerative clustering, here mostly we define the closest for the clusters with multiple elements. And here you can see the example, the closest cluster and then farthest clusters. Now, when you are working on genes, expression analysis, or some kind of phylogenetic relationship, then you go for clustering, which is like kind of hierarchical. So here you can see average distance, farthest, nearest. This is how you go for clustering. So agglomerative clustering questions, what you can ask, will agglomerative clustering converge to a global optima? Will it always find the true patterns in the data? Do people ever use it? How many clusters to pick? So these are some of the questions which you need to evaluate and analyze. Now, when you are done with these things, then you need to also look what are the other tutorials when and in which way they are going to teach clusterings. I have chosen one of the clustering tutorial, which is basically trying to present in vast details. And this is one of the example where the authors try to present in much different way. But what I'm going to say here, such things you don't need when you want to become data scientist. This will basically deviate you from your realistic goal. My suggestion is just try to understand the realistic background in summary and the real application and working module, but to go in such detail. For example, this is quite beneficial that what is are the applications of clusterings and how to use it. But and what is good clustering, what is bad clustering, and then where it is used, then types of clustering, which I have explained, the data structure. These are some repetitive things which you don't need it because you are now familiar that while you are working with computer coding, you organize most of the things into certain metrics, 2 dimension, 3 dimension, or even more. So what is similarity, dissimilarity? These are quite useful things now. Here it is, types of data in clustering. This is purely dependent on your project, what kind of data you will have it. Now, what are the interval variables? All such things are basically deviating for the data scientist, because when you are working with the company, you have already the pre-decided softwares or commercial softwares which your employer will ask to use it. So you don't need to understand the such details. So what you need to understand, how to analyze, and at for what kind of data, which algorithm you need to apply, or which clustering you need to apply, but not exactly how your data appears in each step. This is quite boring and time taken process, which is not worth for you if you want to do the job in the company or in academia on purely data science, or as a data scientist, or as a data analyst. Now, what are the nominal variables? These are some things which will deviate you. So I will suggest you not to spend much time further, just be stuck what I have explained in the previous talk. And so it will save your time, and it will help you to immediately move now to the job, or go for job, apply for a job in data science, and that will be more than enough to switch for the job. So you don't need to understand so details. You just need to understand what is dendrogram, how these dendrograms are plotted, when it comes less clusters, when it comes more clusters, less clusters are beneficial or more clusters are beneficial. These things you need to understand. So why we go for more clusters and why we go for less clusters. So for example, here you can see three clusters, here you can see much more clusters, here you can see just one cluster. So this is depending on your realistic goals. So please be stuck with your realistic goal. Don't deviate yourself. Don't try to like learn one thing in so much detail so that you don't have time to proceed for your future career and do the work. Don't hinder your job, but make your job profile in more professional way, and try to avoid wasting your time on unnecessary things. So thank you very much for today, and hope to see you in the next classes. And please also don't remember to subscribe the channel, because in data science it is not over yet, but in one or two class, the second book which I am covering, and the Python application for data scientist, will be finished. But after that, there will be few more classes which I will use it to summarize the entire data science in just less than 1 hour, which will be more than sufficient for anyone to enter, or to join, or work as a data analyst or data scientist. And it will be worth for those also who have not attended my other videos or listened the other videos, but it is worth to follow up all the lectures, listen all the data science videos, which is available in one playlist, so that you will be